observability indicators. Metrics indicate symptoms, but not causes. They're useful, but don't generally help you a whole lot with diagnostics. So an indicator or metric represents a symptom of the problem, but doesn't say anything definitive about the originating cause. I think we've heard that a few times in the course up to this point. Service level indicators, or SLIs, and service level objectives, SLOs, are explained here briefly. And believe me, if you want to understand a lot more about SLIs and SLOs, which is a good thing to do, you might want to consider taking the Site Reliability Engineering Foundations course, and then even the Site Reliability Engineering Practitioner course. So SLIs and SLOs provide a common language to understand customer experiences, innovation, growth, efficiency, your uptime, performance, and reliability in general based on data. So SLIs represent a metric for understanding the health of the service, where SLOs are the objectives, the targets that are using SLIs to represent those goals. So this kind of explains a little bit, rapid base explanation. So SLI, service level indicator, is for understanding the health, and it's typically represented as the number of good events over the total number of events times 100. An example would be the number of HTTP requests with code 200 over the total times 100%. By the way, I see an error here. It's not just valid events, it's total events. Okay, so an SLO is the objective that is expressed or at least determined by the SLI. So an objective target we set against an SLI. So you can have basically a threshold up until some point. If you're below that number, you're kind of failing your SLO. But if you hit above, a percent of this is a percent, then you're in good shape according to whatever you set your SLOs to be. For example, you maybe say as an SLO, I expect 99.98% of the requests to be successful. So you have to hit at least that level before you are considered meeting your SLOs. Let's talk about SLIs. It's a service level indicator. Again, it's a quantitative measure of the service's performance against a specific reliability goal expressed as an SLO. For each request to a customer-facing endpoint, you could have something like, was the response fast enough? Did it complete successfully? There are many other types of measures. It could be, is the system available? Are there any errors? These are just examples. So check out an SLI for each request to a URL checkout. If the duration has to be less than 1,000 milliseconds and the HTTP status has to be 200 in order to be successful. Some various examples of good practices for SLIs. Avoid misunderstandings by setting a common background on which processes or methods are being used to define the SLI. So basically, the SLI needs to come along with a good, solid definition. Avoid confusion by keeping SLIs simple. Determine what the final users are expecting from the service and use it as indicators. So you really want SLIs to be associated with user experience is the best practice. Service level objectives, on the other hand, are the objective, not the measurement, but how are you meeting your objectives, and SLIs can help you do that. So an SLO is the objective itself. How often should our service respond acceptably? So an SLO could be a service level objective, which is a target or goal for a service's reliability defined using an SLI. So again, this word reliability can come in many forms. It could be availability, performance, error rates. There's a long list of possible reliability things that could be objectives, depending on what makes the most sense for your particular service. An example for a checkout: 98% of checkout requests will return success within 100 milliseconds over 30 days. And that's an important point. SLOs usually have a time boundary. So if you miss an SLO 1 month, or whatever your time period is, you can get back on track next period by making some improvements. These are just some good practices for SLO, not exhaustive. So make sure your SLOs are practical, simple, easy to understand. Start with conservative targets, periodically review them. If you refine the SLOs to remain achievable as the product or system evolves, you may have to change the product to if you're not able to accomplish your expected SLOs in terms of customer expectations. Collaborate across teams to set the SLOs. Conduct working sessions that bring together business stakeholders, product owners, project managers, technical teams, managers, software engineers, SREs, maybe QA, maybe security teams to ensure SLOs reflect, a common understanding of priorities and expected values. Continuing on, these are some indicators of observability connected with this. Don't reinvent the wheel. Use proven observability frameworks to provide right metrics to observe workloads, services, and end users. Leverage business metrics based on the power of observability to collect data from multiple sources supporting business goals. Invest time and collaborative efforts to define and refine the SLIs, SLOs, and associated service level agreements. Just a definition of an SLA, a service level agreement is a formal contract between a service provider and the end customer, defining the expected level of service, including specific performance targets and penalties if those targets are not met. So SLOs and SLIs kind of sound similar, but SLOs are internal goals. SLAs are more external, contracted goals. Usually they're not the same numbers. Usually the SLOs are managed to, a little bit tighter standard than what your customers are expecting, because you don't want to, get into any legal trouble by not meeting your SLAs. Talking about indicators further, SLIs, SLOs, SLAs, and error budgets. Error budget is basically, the amount of tolerance you have for errors compared to, between your SLOs and basically 100%. So you can't really have 100% as an SLO. That's not really feasible. But whatever the budget is basically the difference between a theoretical 100% and your actual SLO target. So if you had an SLO of 99%, then the error budget would be 1%. So these are key SRE concepts in observability that help teams measure, manage, and balance system performance and reliability. By tracking these metrics, teams can ensure they meet customer expectations while maintaining the flexibility to innovate. Here's a definition of error budget. An error budget is a concept that helps teams balance reliability with speed of innovation by quantifying how much failure is allowed for a system within a specific period.